Good afternoon, everyone. Kelly Marshall with Social Entrepreneurs for the Record. I just want to make a note that our chair, Steve Shell, reached out yesterday noting that he had a family emergency, so he is not able to be here, but by email, he designated Dorothy Edwards as our acting chair. So that is one change that I would note from the materials you would have seen posted. So, Ms. Edwards.
Okay, good afternoon, fellow SURG members. For the record, I'm Dorothy Edwards. I'm the Washoe Regional Behavioral Health Coordinator and the Washoe Human Services Agency representative. I am one of your freshman members, and so Kelly will sort of help guide us through. We'll do this together, our agenda. It is now 12:01, and I'm going to call the Statewide Substance Use Response Working Group Subcommittee number 2, Treatment and Recovery, to order. I will ask Kelly Marshall, for the record, to establish quorum.
Great, thank you. Kelly Marshall for the record. Assemblywoman Claire Thomas.
Here.
Chelsea Cheatham. Dr. Dixon.
Here.
Steve Shell. Jeffrey Iverson.
Present.
Dorothy Edwards.
Here.
Madam Acting Chair, we have a quorum.
Okay, awesome. Thank you all. Item number 2 is public comment. Public comment will be received via the Zoom meeting. Public comment shall be limited to 3 minutes per person. This is a period devoted to comments by the general public, if any, and discussion of those comments. No action may be taken upon a matter raised during a period devoted to comments by the general public until the matter itself has been specifically included on an agenda as an item upon which action may be taken pursuant to NRS 241.020. I will open the floor for any public comments from our public or our board. And Kelly, I'll turn it over to you to see if you see any hands. I'm looking. I don't see any hands or any on the phone.
Right. So if just a note, Kelly Marshall for the record, if you're dialing in from a telephone, you can dial 1-253-205-0468. And then when prompted, you enter the webinar ID 894-893-75298 and press *9 so that we can prompt you to unmute. Or if you are on the Zoom webinar, you can raise your hand or you can unmute and just go ahead and make public comment. So right now, I do not see any hands raised, Madam Chair, and I do not see anyone unmuted to make a public comment at this moment.
Okay, and thank you for reading the rest of that. I was reading the wrong page. All right, I'm going to close out. If we don't see any public comment, I'm going to close out item 2 and open item 3. This is the review and approval of minutes from the March 2024 subcommittee meeting. You have all had a chance, hopefully, to review those. And I would like to take a motion for approval. And then I'll ask for discussion if there's any. Do I hear a motion?
Jeff Iverson for the record. I will make a motion to approve.
Thank you, Mr. Iverson. Do I hear a second?
Dr. Dixon, I'll second it.
Thank you, Dr. Dixon. It's been made a motion and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Let the record reflect that the minutes from March 2024 have been approved as submitted and will become part of our record. So now we're going to go on to item 4. And as I said, Kelly will help me kind of stumble through these agenda items a little bit. In 2023, the committee received a presentation on the safer consumption sites. And now we have to decide whether we want to discuss and bring forward recommendations for 2024. This is a possible action item. And so I will open this item for discussion, and then I'm going to first turn it over to Kelly for more explanation in case you folks need a reminder.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So Kelly Marshall for the record. So just a reminder that for about 2 years, the Treatment and Recovery Subcommittee was seeking a presentation from Kaylin C., who is a national expert and has actually established a safer consumption site and operates out of New York City. And so we finally were able to align our SURG meeting, subcommittee meeting calendar with Ms. C's, and she did a presentation for us in the fall of 2023. And it was right at the same time you were trying to finalize your recommendations to bring to the full SURG in October. And so the determination, if you were to go back and look at the minutes, it indicated that this subcommittee said that you wanted to workshop a recommendation based on her presentation, but that you were going to defer it until 2024. So this is kind of a holdover item. And one of the things that we've done is sent out the link for people to make recommendations. So an individual subcommittee member could take that presentation and make a recommendation, or the subcommittee could decide, as you have in the past, to discuss it as a whole group over, the course, agendize it basically for one of your upcoming meetings, say the June meeting, and really workshop a recommendation in that regard. And so this was really seeking direction from you as a subcommittee about whether there were any member that wanted to make a safer consumption site recommendation. And I would just remind you that all of the subcommittee members really engaged in that discussion. Mr. Iverson, you had questions for Kaylin C. And I think we're probably the most familiar with what a safer consumption site was. Dr. Dixon, you had talked with Ms. C about kind of how they managed overdoses, for example. So there is a record, and we could make that recording available to all of the subcommittee members and the public to refresh your memory, and then agendize it for our next meeting. Or if a member of the subcommittee wanted to bring forward a recommendation, you could determine that that was the approach you wanted to make. But we wanted to explicitly bring this and reintroduce it to the subcommittee so that we were aligning with your direction from last year, which was to workshop it.
Thank you.
I'd be happy to answer any
Kelly.
questions.
Thank you, Kelly. So are there questions from the, I keep saying board, from our committee for Kelly, or is there discussion?
I see Assemblywoman Thomas has her hand raised, Madam Chair.
Assemblywoman?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for getting us together and reintroducing. I recall, because we had waited so long for her presentation, but she didn't disappoint once we got it. And I thought that, I'm trying to remember or recall, if you would, why we tabled it.
I'd be happy to answer that,
Thank
Madam Chair. Kelly Marshall for the record. So Assemblywoman Thomas, it was a timing issue. We were bringing forward our final slate of recommendations to the SURG for the October meeting. And I think the subcommittee didn't feel like you had enough time to build out the justification, the research links, fill out the part of the recommendation that would state exactly what you were looking for and what a potential fiscal note would be on it. Like, it was really a timing issue, but the subcommittee was very positive about developing a recommendation. And that's why I think you determined we don't have enough time to do one that could be reviewed by the SURG in October and then finalized in December for inclusion in the January report. So you tabled it for 2024, but you wanted to make sure and revisit it.
And Assemblywoman Claire Thomas, for the record, thank you. And just to add to this, we have all of those provisions in place now.
We have, Kelly Marshall, for the record, we have her presentation. We have a recording of it. We have the minutes that includes the discussion. We do not yet have somebody from this subcommittee who has volunteered to draft a recommendation. And that was part of what we wanted to look at is there an individual who would like to draft it? Or do you want to do it as a subcommittee and we put it on the agenda for the June meeting? Or has your inclination changed and you no longer want to workshop it? But the last direction we had from the subcommittee was you wanted to revisit it.
Assemblywoman Claire Thomas, for the record. Thank you, Kelly. Appreciate that.
Okay, Dr. Dixon, I see your hand up. Please go ahead.
Thank you. Yeah, this is Dr. Dixon, for the record. I'm thinking really the answer is that we're going to have to workshop this, but my question is, which is, in the state of Nevada, would any recommendation for safer consumption sites eventually have to go to the legislature for some legal law, and we would need to get some legal opinions, because New York and California are way ahead of us in doing things like this, but a lot of states, including ours, is I think a little reluctant to do things like this. So I think I guess we need to get more input on that. And I see Dr. Woodard's on the phone, on the call. She might be able to just at least answer that question briefly, but I think we're probably, if we want to go any further, yeah, we need to workshop it for sure.
Thank you, Dr. Dixon. So, Chair Edwards, we're not in a public comment section, but I believe, and Rosalie, please let me know if I'm wrong about this. I believe that the chair can, at her discretion, invite a member of the public to respond to something the subcommittee has raised.
I believe I can.
Yes, that is correct.
Thank you. So putting our wonderful Dr. Woodard on the spot, if you would please provide us some of your wisdom, we'd greatly appreciate it, Dr. Woodard.
Thank you, Chair Edwards. Stephanie Woodard, for the record. So to answer the question of Dr. Dixon, this concept has actually come before the Nevada State Legislature in previous sessions. And so I do anticipate that some type of statutory language would need to be included to enable the implementation of safer consumption sites. So I think going back to the legislative record when previous legislation was proposed would be a good idea for this committee to be able to review. So at the very least, you have some kind of legislative history to be able to include in your discussion around whether or not you decide to workshop and what would be included in a potential policy recommendation.
Thank you, Dr. Woodard. So what it sounds like we're moving towards, and I'll ask for further comment, is a review, going back to the legislative history, a review before we make a decision on whether to move forward, put it on the next agenda. Kelly, is that what you're hearing? Can you help me out?
Madam Chair, I think what I'm hearing is there's a question to be answered and there is a way to answer that question.
Okay,
We have had Laura Hale, who's also on this call, tracking both legislative activities and also developments related to recommendations. So I think we could request her to go back and get information that could be presented with an agenda item at our next meeting, that could then help this working group move forward on a potential recommendation and workshopping what that recommendation might be.
so Dorothy Edwards, for the record, Ms. Hale, is that something that you're willing to do, that we can put on the record?
I wonder if we lost her. Nope, we didn't. I think I can safely speak for Laura that as part of the SEI team, Kelly Marshall, for the record, as part of the SEI team, she would be able to do that.
All right.
We might have to circle back with Dr. Woodard to just get some breadcrumbs about where to start. But I think we could go into the history and be able to find it.
So with that, is there any more discussion on agenda item 4? And Kelly, please correct me and interrupt me if I am moving on too quickly.
Now, I don't see an action that needs to be taken by the subcommittee at this time. What I hear is that you're just requesting additional information that we can provide. If you wanted to make a motion to agendize it for the next meeting, that's not required, but you could certainly do that.
I will, and I see Ms. Hale said happy to track that information in our chat, and for the record, Dorothy Edwards. So we have that in our recording as well, since our chat items don't always get part of the record. I will go ahead. Sure, I will go ahead and entertain a motion to agendize that item for our next meeting. Do I hear a motion?
Assemblywoman Clara Thomas, for the record, so moved.
Thank you. And do I have a second?
Jeff Iverson, for the record, I will second.
Thank you, Mr. Iverson. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, that passes. So we will make this item part of our agenda. Kelly, we'll see that on our next agenda. So I will close out agenda item 4 and we will go to agenda item 5, which I think is a lot of the meat of this meeting, if I am right. And again, I will call on my friend Kelly to help me out as we walk through this item. We were tasked, we as a committee, to provide some recommendations and complete a survey or a poll and complete that and submit to SEI by a due date. And so we did receive, oh, am I jumping ahead, Kelly?
No, I think
Okay.
you're fine.
Okay.
And then we can provide additional context.
Okay. And so we had 3 recommendations submitted, and so we'll discuss those a little. Correct, Kelly?
Yes.
Okay.
I'll provide some context and then we'll get into the recommendation.
Please, yeah, okay, thank you so much.
Okay, so just to bring us all to current time,
yes.
Kelly Marshall, for the record. Assemblywoman Thomas, you had made a recommendation while we were finishing up our January report for 2023. You had identified having Las Vegas Integrative Medicine do a presentation on alternative pain medicine and pain management, and had provided the contact information for us. So we have done outreach multiple times. I think copied you a couple of times. We have not been able to get somebody to confirm that they could do a presentation with us. So I wanted to let you know that that is on our radar. We've been tracking it since you brought it up, but we have not gotten a response. We actually copied you so that we thought maybe they would see you copied and they would respond. But so far, we just have not been able to connect those dots. So we will continue to work on that. In addition, oh, go ahead, Dr. Dixon.
Yes, Dr. Dixon, were you just talking about the alternative pain management?
Yes.
Right. Well, I have a doctor friend who this is his thing. We could see if there's anyone, if he would want to talk to us about that.
And it was specific to like acupuncture, yoga, like it was not around the presentation that we had from Dr. Narizi last year. So I just wanted to be clear.
And he talked about more the injections and all those kinds of things. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is really alternative therapies.
That I don't know anybody that does that. So, but my friend might know somebody. So who is this person that's being listed here?
So I don't know if Assemblywoman Thomas.
Yes, this is Assemblywoman Claire Thomas, for the record. Sanji is the owner of the business, but his wife is the doctor. So let me do some, because I wanted him to be in direct contact. So let me find out where we dropped the ball.
That's great. And Kelly Marshall, for the record, Assemblywoman Thomas, feel free to give out my cell phone number, my email, anything that would help us better connect, we're happy to do.
And Assemblywoman Claire Thomas, for the record, will do. Thank you so much for bringing it to my attention again. It's been a crazy, season here.
Great. Okay, so then Kelly Marshall, for the record, the other thing that came out of a review at the last SURG meeting is that there are these LAPA recommendations, and one of them had to do with a bridge program, like in the emergency rooms. If you recall, this was a recommendation, Dr. Dixon, I think that you brought forward in 2022 for that emergency room bridge program. I wanted to note that because it was listed on this like list of national recommendations that states should consider, it came back to treatment and recovery to say maybe there's something else you want to revisit related to that initial recommendation we made. There were two people identified as potential presenters. One of them, Sarah Windles, from the National Bridge Network, had actually presented to the response subcommittee a year ago. So in May of 2023, she presented to response. So this is another question where we need just some direction from this subcommittee, which is, do you want to revisit your 2022 recommendation? Would you like to, some of the options are that you could look at the presentation that was done to response and look at the recommendation that you made in 2022, and we could workshop that as a potential recommendation, or we could reach out and see if we could get another presentation, but we didn't want to request somebody to present when they had already presented a year ago. So we just need some guidance from this subcommittee about whether you want to tackle this or not, having taken on a similar issue in a previous year's recommendation.
Ms. Dr. Dixon. what was our recommendation exactly?
I believe, like, I don't have the exact language, Laura. I'm gonna ask you to pull it up to see if you can. I think it was from 2022, but it was specifically around the emergency department and implementing a bridge program.
Let me see if I can go back and find it. It may take me a minute.
Thank you.
So, Dr. Dixon again. So, you know, I'm on the bridge program committee here in Nevada, and I think some of you are too. And we've been meeting, and there is progress. You know, things are getting better. Some of the ERs are really taking it upon themselves to do more. And I actually had a patient the other day who was given some buprenorphine when they left the emergency room, and it was not a hospital I would have expected to do that. So I thought that would have been a laggard hospital. So in a way, you know, we've got updates, you know, and what is the problem now in terms of compared to 2 years ago. So I think it might be worth having someone come talk to us, but I don't know if we might be better off having someone local talk rather than someone national.
And Kelly Marshall, for the record. So if that were the case, Dr. Dixon, I think it would be helpful, since you're on the bridge committee for Nevada, if you could identify who might be able to provide an update. That would be great. I think the real question is, does the subcommittee at the end of the day want to further a recommendation building on either what you've recommended in the past, or based on what you've learned through the work of the Bridge Nevada efforts, or to align with the National Bridge Network?
Well, as far as Dr. Dixon again, well, as far as someone here, I think probably the best spokesman nowadays would be Dr. Kelly Morgan. She's an emergency room doctor who's really gung-ho on this, and she might be able to turn the issue into a recommendation for the future.
Thank you, Dr. Dixon. So Kelly Marshall, for the record, Dr. Dixon, if you were able to give me contact information or maybe even a warm handoff, like via an email, that would be tremendous. And then we could follow up and request a presentation with a recommendation.
Okay. I can do that.
Great.
So Kelly, we don't need that in the form of a motion, is correct? You're just going to move forward with that warm handoff and make that on our next, okay. All
right, and then the other, so Kelly Marshall, again, for the record, just a note, part of what the subcommittee is doing now, right, is trying to identify what do we need to know so that we can have a slate of recommendations. Typically, we don't want more than like 5 recommendations that go to the full SURG that we are kind of finalizing in September. And we have placeholder meetings for June 4th, for August 6th, and for September 3rd. And typically that September 3rd meeting would be the meeting that you're finalizing what you're bringing forward to the full SURG in October, so that we can have recommendations finalized by December and then voted on as part of the final report in January. So the November date is typically an allowance for if something comes back from the full SURG where they say, can you add this piece in, or can you compile these 2 recommendations together? So it's an allowance meeting that we may or may not need. But we can work on the agenda now for the June 4th meeting based on the direction we've received today, and any other information we get either by contacting Dr. Morgan or by connecting with Mr. Sidera through Assemblywoman Thomas, and that will get us moving forward. That being said, we have received 3 recommendations thus far that the subcommittee will also now begin to workshop. And so I don't believe we're workshopping them today. And we only have one of the three members here to present. So I think we could move to that just to get everybody on the same page, and then you would understand what we'll be doing in June and August. So I will turn it back over to you,
Okay.
Madam Chair.
So, Dorothy Edwards for the record, and I'll make several big disclaimers before I present this recommendation. Again, so excited to be a new-ish member of this really important group, and I have a passion, but forgive me as I catch myself up to all the great activities that we've been doing. Part of my role is to facilitate the Washoe Regional Behavioral Health Policy Board. You'll know there's 5 policy boards in Nevada representing different regions, and I help facilitate the Washoe Regional Behavioral Health Policy Board. One unique aspect of our policy boards is that we are given a BDR, an opportunity to present a bill draft request for changes, revisions, legislative action on behavioral health activities. And so we, being the other coordinators in my role, have put out the call regionally for proposals, not just to our 13 board members, but to our community, because we feel really strongly about hearing from our community, from our stakeholders, from individuals, from organizations, public, private, on what activities, where they think changes need to be made in behavioral health. So each meeting, we have another one actually next Monday, AG Ford will be speaking up. We invite people to present, and this recommendation that I submitted is really, and again, sort of an apology here. It's almost a direct cut and paste from Mr. Berry, is the gentleman's name who submitted it, from his proposal. And if you'll allow me, I am not going to read this whole thing. And there are many questions that I can't answer at this point. However, I do want to read just 2 important paragraphs that kind of describe his proposal. And then I will invite, if the committee is interested in getting a subject matter expert, getting some more answers, then we can certainly move forward to do that. I will say that upon his presentation, the board expressed an interest. We have not voted yet on what we will move forward with our BDR. We've had a couple of presentations, but many of the board were interested in this. And we had 2 letters of support from the community in support of this. There were board members, many more learned than me, that expressed some questions. Julia Ratty, and of course, rely on her expertise for some of those questions. There's certainly some questions around our fiscal impact, which we all know is huge whenever we bring a BDR. But if you'll just allow me, I'm going to read just a couple paragraphs so you'll get the flavor of what Mr. Berry is approaching. He is employed currently as a peer support specialist at Northern Nevada Hopes, but he's a social worker undergraduate at UNR and a member of NRAP and other organizations, and he is recovering. He says currently naloxone is only legitimately provided on UNR's campus at the Student Health Center. However, where it's most needed is in the dormitories. We know that overdoses are on the rise and fentanyl poisoning is a problem. We are also aware that young men and women before the age of 25 have not fully matured, and their brains, especially the prefrontal cortex, is not fully formed. This leads to questionable decisions and irresponsible behavior. I'm sure we all have a story or 2 to tell of when we were that age, and I wouldn't want to tell any of mine. Currently, the naloxone, the opioid overdose reversal drug, is only available legitimately within the Student Health Center on the campus of UNR. My vision, Mr. Berry's, would be that it was available ubiquitously throughout the campus, in the student union and in the dormitories. His feeling is this drug should be treated like first aid. Wherever Band-Aids are located, so should a box of naloxone. Also, the resident advisors, the RAs in our dorms throughout this state, should have the agency to assist and provide this life-saving care for someone in the throes of an overdose. He goes on to discuss other states where it's been made possible through legislation, and he is proposing a similar bill that would require our NSHE to make this happen. And he provides a fairly comprehensive, because I provided a fairly comprehensive questionnaire for folks to complete with some research. And so he provides some additional resources and research that I won't go into here. He did complete this by saying, as an undergraduate student at UNR, I pay $103 every semester as health center fees. This in turn provides all sorts of services to me as a student, including immunizations, COVID tests, nutrition, psychiatry, reproductive health, and sports medicine. This is also where one would legitimately procure a box of naloxone. I propose this fee be adjusted in order to absorb the cost of this plan that I propose. So he does address a little bit of a fiscal, but Kelly, I will stop my just very brief summary there. I wasn't sure if that's what the committee had in mind when we were talking about reviewing the recommendations. But I am certainly open to inviting Mr. Berry or another subject matter expert to further discuss, should the committee be interested in bringing something like this forward. Is there discussion or comments from the committee that you'd like to make as part of the record? All right.
Well, I'll make a comment.
Okay, Dr. Dixon, thank you.
Dr. Dixon, I mean, it sounds like a great idea. I think we definitely need to get Narcan out more into the places where it would be used. And that sounds great. Would this be, so obviously it would cost some money.
Yeah.
Stuff isn't free. But anyway, yeah. So I think it's a good idea.
And Chair Edwards, for the record, and I see, and I'm so excited, I see Mr. Berry is actually in our public viewing audience, and I'm going to take advantage of my role and ask Mr. Berry if he'd like to provide an additional comment. Hi, Michael.
Yes, hi, Michael Berry for the record. Thank you very much for inviting me. In regards to that comment, Dr. Dixon, as I understand it, it is a Narcan or naloxone is a drug that's already being provided by the state of Nevada. It would be a matter of UNR and other NSHE sites becoming distribution sites. And actually legitimizing their distribution of this opioid reversal drug. As you may know, it's already provided en masse from so many different agencies around our great state. So it would just be a matter of getting our wonderful universities signed up. As far as the education and the RA, giving the agency to RAs, that would probably require some training. I'm not sure how many people have gone through a Narcan training, but it's fairly short and fairly simple. So that would be a part or a cost that I imagine, like Dorothy said, would be absorbed, I hope, through the fees. But you're right, it is not a cheap drug. But thank goodness our state of Nevada has already, in their, wizened, knowledge, has already thought that it was a good idea to distribute in other ways or from other agencies. So that would be the best I can comment on that.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Berry. I was delighted to see that you were on. I should have known you would attend this. So thank you very much, Dorothy Edwards, for the record. So that is the first recommendation that we received that was put forward by me on behalf of the policy board and Mr. Berry. So Kelly, I don't know if you plan to read recommendation 2 and 3, even though
I
the
can
presenters
do
are not
that.
here. If
Yeah.
you'd like to do that, I'll turn that back over to you.
Yeah, thank you so much. And
Thank you.
also thank you to Assemblywoman Thomas, who's reached out to Mr. Sedera and has ensured that we will be able to connect. So we will work on getting that presentation for our June meeting. If not, then the next meeting. So recommendation 2 comes from our long-standing member, Chelsea Cheatham. And it is to support access and linkage for treatment of trauma for people with substance use disorder or those who have overdosed, and for surviving family members after an overdose fatality. Included in the recommendation is to support training for healthcare professionals to identify and address trauma. And so the justification that she provided is to elevate how important it is to treat trauma in supporting people with substance use disorder and mental health concerns, that trauma-informed treatment includes looking at the effects of violence, adverse childhood experiences or ACEs, sexual assault, incarceration, overdose, etc. And then also supporting trauma-related care for surviving family members after an overdose or overdose fatality. And there is a provision of some of what the research says about survivors of child trauma in terms of the impacts on overall health and well-being. And then she provides some research links. And she recommended that we have an ACEs trainer or adverse childhood experiences trainer, such as Becky Haas, or a trauma-informed care expert like Dr. Dan Sumrock to present. And I think the question for the subcommittee is whether you would want Ms. Cheatham at the next meeting to just talk through her recommendation, or if you would like a presentation on this. In other words, do you feel like you need a presentation on this recommendation to fully get behind it, or would you rather just go the route of listening and engaging with Ms. Cheatham to bring this recommendation to the full consideration of the subcommittee? So we're just trying to figure out, do we need a presentation so that we can start working on that, or have Chelsea just bring it back to you?
This is Jeff Iverson for the record. I would be in support of moving forward with the recommendation without a presentation.
Thank you.
Speaking for myself.
Anyone else have a different opinion, or are you comfortable that we could look at the links and discuss it with Ms. Cheatham and you could come to some consensus on a recommendation?
Well, this, Dr. Dixon, I think we should move forward on this, and I like the idea of having one of these people come present to us, or both of them. They're very different.
Okay, Kelly, this is for the record, Dorothy Edwards. Do we need to, or our AGDA, do we need to have a motion on moving forward with presenters? Or is this just discussion only, and we'll put that on our agenda?
To the extent it's requesting future agenda items, sorry, Rosalie Bordelove for the
Thank
record.
you.
To the extent it's requesting future agenda items like presentations or things, that doesn't require a motion.
Awesome.
What just requires a motion here is to the extent that you're authorizing somebody to report out to the full surge with your recommendations or what those recommendations are, those kinds of things.
Fabulous. Thank you. So glad you're here.
So Chair Edwards, I heard Jeffrey say he felt like we could move forward with the recommendation. I heard Dr. Dixon say she thinks it would be great to have a presentation. So I'm just seeking maybe a tiebreaker or someone to tell me, do you want to go the presentation route? We already we have Dr. Morgan identified. We have Mr. Sedera identified for a presentation. And so
Jeff Iverson, again, for the record, I'm not opposed to a presentation. I was only speaking for myself. I wouldn't mind sitting through another presentation if there's somebody on this subcommittee who would like more information. So I was only just speaking for myself. I'm not opposed to having somebody come and do a presentation. Just to be clear.
And Dorothy Edwards for the record as I can be a tiebreaker as a third responder. I would also like to see a presentation, understanding that I had missed some of these earlier. I have heard Miss Haas, and she's great.
thank you. That's Kelly Marshall for the record. That's super helpful for me. So I can circle back with Chelsea and ask her if she can do a connect for us to identify a presenter. And then we'll just see how it shakes out, whether it'll be the June meeting or the August meeting.
Awesome. And so Kelly, would you like to present our third recommendation, please?
Yes. So this recommendation, again, Kelly Marshall for the record, this recommendation is from Steve Shell, our chair, and is specifically around the healthcare quality and compliance, which is often referred to as HCQC. It's within the Division of Public and Behavioral Health. And the recommendation is that HCQC should reevaluate the employment guidelines for hospitals, including behavioral health hospitals, as they relate to hiring certified peer recovery support specialists who have felony backgrounds and are within 5 years of their last felony conviction. His recommendation is that individuals who were convicted of drug offenses or other offenses that do not involve violent acts or sexual exploitation be considered for employment as certified peer recovery support specialists in hospitals. And his justification is that individuals who do have felony backgrounds have limited opportunities to work as certified peers in hospitals, including behavioral health hospitals, because of the requirements that are set forth by HCQC. Currently, the requirements do not allow a hospital to hire a peer specialist who has a felony in the last 5 years. As a result, this has excluded some peers who are stable and in recovery, but are still within the 5-year period because of their felony conviction. He believes individuals who were convicted of drug offenses or other offenses that do not involve violent acts or sexual exploitation should be considered for peer certification. And in a hospital setting, peers would only work under the supervision of a physician, nurse, or therapist and would not be working independently with patients. His recommendation is to have, or his suggestion is to have a possible presenter from HCQC or from DPBH, Division of Public and Behavioral Health, to speak regarding this, the current requirements and the ability to reevaluate those guidelines.
Assemblywoman Thomas.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Assemblywoman Claire Thomas for the record. Just a question, just listening to the proposal, would we not have to get something in NRS that looks at whether or not we can, isolate who can perform in a hospital setting if they are, I don't know, if I can get a response from legal.
Sorry about that. I was muted. Rosalie Porterhouse for the record. I'm not an expert when it comes to the NRS in some of these areas because my expertise is more the open meetings. Their recommendations regarding changes to NRS are something you guys can make. But the power of SURG is limited a little bit by the fact that you don't have any specific BDRs, as well as you can make a lot of recommendations to HHS and all of those, but you can't require action. But you can make recommendations that NRS changes would be beneficial and the reasons why. And there's always the possibility that somebody who has those BDRs will take that up. For example, AG Ford has a certain number of his own that he can use, but they may be earmarked for other things.
And a similar woman, Claire Thomas, for the record, thank you much, because I saw us going into the weeds right there. And, it's great that, this could come out and we can discuss, but I think we will have to look at NRS on that.
Kelly Marshall, for the record, the sense that I had was that Chair Shell was, that's why he was suggesting somebody from HCQC, because they would speak to how that would need to be, what was in the latitude of what they could do or couldn't do and how it could be done.
Are there any other comments or discussion on recommendation 3? Kelly, there appears to be no further. Oh, Assemblywoman, your hand is still up. Were you? Okay. Kelly, what's your pleasure now? That seems to have wrapped up the discussion for the 3 recommendations that were submitted.
Yeah, I think I can, Kelly Marshall, for the record, I think I can circle back to Chair Shell and request whether he would like to have an HCQC or DPBH presentation to tease that out, or if he has had conversations himself and he can just address that when he meets next with the subcommittee. So if people are comfortable with that, I can follow up with him, and then we can either agendize it or not, but we'll need to agendize the recommendations so that you can all work through it. So I think this subcommittee now has an idea of where we are in process, the fact that we have 3 recommendations, and that we have discussed workshopping a 4th, which is the safe consumption sites, and potentially a 5th with the bridge program. So we've got those recommendations in the queue, as well as these, and that's really what we're going to be working on. And that we also are always open to subcommittee members crafting a recommendation, and we'll send out the survey link once again to subcommittee members, so that if something crosses your desk and you want a recommendation, you can bring it up. Otherwise, we'll move forward with pursuing presenters and further discussion of the slate that we have.
Hey, thank you, Kelly. So I will close out agenda item number 5, and I will move to agenda item 6. And this is our discussion on the report out for our July SURG meeting. And so I will open it with Kelly's nod of approval for discussion on items for discussion to our full SURG meeting in July. Do I hear any discussion? And Kelly, please feel free to jump in if there has been previous discussion of which I'm not aware.
So this is an opportunity, Kelly Marshall for the record, this is an opportunity just to let the other SURG members who are sitting on other subcommittees kind of know what's in the queue for our subcommittees, and also to align efforts so that we don't have multiple recommendations being developed in separate subcommittees. So I think the question would be, because this group is going to meet again in June, it seems to me like we could request that Chair shall report out in July the list of presentations that we're requesting and the recommendations that we've received thus far that we're workshopping or that we have an actual recommendation for. Maybe just with short language so that other subcommittees know what we're working on. So they get introduced to some of what we're working on in advance of the October meeting. So unless anyone is opposed to that, that's what we could provide to Chair Shell to report out for July, the presentations we're pursuing and the areas that we have some recommendations that we're considering, not that they've been approved.
Thank you, Kelly. That sounds great. Any discussion? Heartburn? All right, Kelly, that sounds like that's a go. So we'll close out item, that last item, item 7. The next is another opportunity for public comment. Public comment will be received via Zoom by raising your hand or unmuting yourself when asked for public comment. Public comment shall be limited to 3 minutes per person. This is a period devoted to comments by the general public, if any, and discussion of those comments. No action may be taken upon a matter raised during a period devoted to comments by the general public until the matter itself has been specifically included on an agenda as an item upon which action may be taken pursuant to NRS 241.020. If you are dialing in from a telephone from the US, dial 1-253-205-0468. When prompted, enter the webinar ID 894-8937-5298. Please press *9 so the host can prompt you to unmute. So for the record, this is Dorothy Edwards, and I'm opening it up for a public comment. And I see Mr. Berry again. Mr. Berry, I'm going to recognize you. Your 3 minutes starts now.
Yeah, hi, thank you. Michael Berry for the record. Thank you very much, Dorothy. I just wanted to express my thanks and gratitude for bringing my idea to your committee. And that's pretty much all I wanted to say. But I appreciate your time, and any thoughts on this, I'd be happy to go over and kind of spitball. So I appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Berry. Are there other public comments? Are there any final comments from our board, our committee? Well, that's fabulous. I didn't do too badly. If there are no other comments, and Kelly, I want to be sure I let you get a word in before I adjourn. Do you have anything else to add? Nope.
No, Kelly Marshall for the record. Thank you all so much. And Ms. Edwards, thank you for chairing.
Of course. So this is Dorothy Edwards adjourning this meeting at 12:59 p.m. on May 7th, 2024. We'll see you at the next meeting.
Everyone have a great day.
Thank you.